42 regular, wasn't it?
Yeah. And so it begins.
You know, at Fandom, we've got a John Wick wiki, the John Wiki, and we asked for some questions from fans there and on Twitter, and one we got was just, are you surprised by how popular this series is after 9 years, and really going against the grain, it keeps gaining in popularity at this point?
Hopefully. I mean, hopefully it gains in popularity because, you know, we made it with love, and we hope that people, you know, appreciate what we did because it's for you and us, but also absolutely surprised, and it's and grateful.
I think you're always surprised. I mean, it was a terrific, independent, tight movie with a lot of good actors, a great script, and a sort of exciting thing, and we did it, and that was it. You know, and you think, oh yeah. Then I remember 2 years later, here we go again. And then suddenly 2 years later, there we go again. And here we are 2 years later, and of course we just finished Ballerina. So no, it's developed into something which, you know, shows develop their own kind of momentum. And this dip, I think it's mostly due to Keanu and Chad being so involved that it's got, and the scripts have remained, and the show has remained, you know, going forward, but retaining the qualities of the first one. Difficult thing to do, but I think they've managed it pretty well over the decade that we've been doing it, don't you, Lance?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Keanu and Chad and their whole team, they set an intention that with each movie that they would make, they would raise the stakes just a little bit more every time and try to do something that was a little unexpected, was a little better than the last time, and they've been successful at that. And this movie is really the payoff of all the hard work from 1 to 2 to 3. This movie,
You think your wife can hear you?
No.
And why bother?
Maybe I'm wrong.
You're going to die.
Maybe not.
So we had an actual clinical psychologist, Dr. Drea Letamendi, do a psychological profile of John. And I'm curious to hear your feedback to a couple of things you said. Yeah, it was cool.
Wait, what was the source?
You know, just she watching the films, and then she has a background in clinical
All of them, or just
the three?
one?
The three. She hasn't seen 4. So,
Okay,
yeah,
fair enough.
yeah.
Okay.
That his lifestyle and the cycle he's in are making it so the wiring in his brain becomes more attuned to disassociation, emotional numbness, and neutrality towards violence. And that's all psychologically hazardous, of course, but at the same time, it's making him sharper, faster, and better at what he does. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that the disassociative practices or wiring were occurred in his youth and childhood and upbringing. I would counter that he doesn't have emotional numbness completely, so I would say that he's compartmentalized, obviously because of his passion, love for his wife. I feel that he is very emotional, but I believe that this other character of John Wick does operate in a not disassociative, but there is dumbness, or I don't know, it gets tricky. So I agree and I disagree, but I agree, and it would be a conversation.
And we see this,
but not wrong.
right. Well, she mentions though we see this other side of him, of course, when he has these connections, like with Winston, and of course talks about pet therapy, and when you see these moments connecting with animals. Is that nice for you, and with a guy who's so laser focused, to show that lighter side sometimes?
Yeah, I mean, I actually think of the character as two characters. I feel like there's John the man, the husband, and then there's John Wick, the assassin. And I think that these two parts of this person, this character, have not been synthesized. And I feel like John Wick Chapter 4 is about that synthesizing, that integration.
I think sometimes emotional numbness can also have the reciprocal side of being overly attuned to emotion, and that can be a driving force as well. I think John Wick is in a little bit of a conundrum about what he really wants and what the effects of that. I think he's slightly blind to the ramifications or consequences. As you can tell in this movie, it's about consequence, and we keep using the other characters, like Hiroyuki. Like he comes in there and he thinks he's, you know, that John thinks he's the hero of his own story, but what he's doing is disrupting other people's lives, and people pay the consequences for his actions, and that's always, okay, what is that? Narcissistic? Is that psychopathic? Like, what is that? And we always laugh when we're doing another scene with John, like, okay, how we making him look like the jerk this time? you know, because that's really what he does, is just Keanu does it in such a charming way. You forget that this is really because he kind of overreacted in the first movie, and he couldn't deal with grief a certain way. So, yeah, that's probably an interesting psychological assessment.
A new day is dawning. New ideas, new rules, new management.
What was the most challenging scene in John Wick 4, which, having seen it, it seems like there would be a lot of challenging moments to pull off in that movie?
I would say, for me, first of all, the challenges are the gifts, right? And I would just say the whole thing. There was such an ambition with the vision and the hope for what we could do. And so with the training and the physicality of the role and what that took place over 7 months of filming it, was just being able to do it day after day.
There's all logistics, like the top shot is a logistically difficult sequence. But the biggest one that I think is obvious is the Arc de Triomphe. Just having that many vehicles, that many people, that many stunts, that many, a dog and all gunfire in the middle of all this traffic is always a little tricky. People forget that Keanu is driving that car, and he is at 45, 50 miles an hour, and that is oncoming traffic. And then Keanu is weaving through those stunt drivers. Granted, we have certain ways to differentiate what lane to stay in, but like the penalty of missing is pretty epic. It is a head-on collision at 35, 40 miles an hour. So you're a little puckered up behind the monitor going, don't miss, don't miss, don't miss.